Hey guys, Akariss here. Here we are. It's been overdue, I think, but I do feel like we should cover Claude, so that will be today's video, obviously. What I'm gonna say before we even begin the video is we got Legendary Edelgard, we got Legendary Dimitri, and Legendary Claude, and they all match their brave forms pretty much in looks and literally rolls, besides that one of them are blessable, like those are blessable and those that are not. So I gotta say, I'm fairly disappointed that Claude didn't even get to be like a different colored bow, and that he's not wind is also kind of weird. But anyways, yeah, let's get into the video, and we're gonna take a pretty extensive analysis of both Claude, the Earth Legendaries, and the banner, of course, to round it out. So, enjoy, folks. Alright guys, welcome to the Legendary Claude analysis, Legendary Claude banner, and his total, like, impact on, let's say, the Earth meta, the Earth Season Arena meta. Okay, I'm gonna pretty much say, guys, that Claude is good. Claude is really good, definitely pretty solid. If you don't already know, he is a colorless bow flyer that is Earth for some reason, but it is Earth, and that completes all of our lords from 3 house, not including Byleth, I suppose, in terms of characters, and he's pretty much similar to his Brave form, but there are definitely some key differences. So I want to touch on that, of course, and we're going to start by looking at his skill set, and then I'm going to speculate on some stats. We don't have that, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be fairly similar to his Brave form, just like the legendary Brave forms of the other lords. So let's go over this. He brings a brand new skill, attack speed catch. I would call this a sort of push kind of skill. I don't know how to like phrase it, but just assume attack speed catch 4 is like gives as much stats as solo 4 and push 4s, but the conditions are fairly easy to meet. If there's a penalty or the enemy's at 100%, you get attack speed 7. That's given. But if both the enemy's at 100% health and it has a penalty, you get an additional 2 attack and 2 speed. So that essentially makes it some of the highest stats you can get in the A slot if both conditions are met, 9 attack and 9 speed. That could be a pretty good A skill for sure. Especially on like defense teams where you're going to be running into tanks who might be like full health. If a healer could use that, that's really good. So it's a solid A skill. Likely we'll see some inherits. I don't think you should be foddering off Claude, but there will be some places for it. Then we got his speed defense Rhine. A couple of characters already have this now. I believe Jill and Linja already have it, so it's not that special to him. His weapon is pretty good. Okay, it's null follow-up in there. It's basically always gonna have 5 to all stats, because essentially it's like as long as he's over 25% health, and that's gonna be most of the time, let's be real. And finally, it's a slaying weapon. So because he's an archer, this means he could be running Deadeye. Flying, it does give him a flying weakness, and we'll definitely cover that as well. But essentially, that weapon's good. No follow-up's good, because flyers in general can't have access to that for the most part. So now we get into the danger zone, folks, and that's Fallen Star. Fallen Star, as long as he initiates, so his player phase, as long as he initiates, he gets minus 80% damage reduction. Okay, that is pretty much invincibility, because there's not many units that can do 250 damage to kill him. Okay, assuming he's got like 50 health or something, right? So no one's really doing that. Even with effective damage, if he player phases things, he's gonna survive. That's really good. However, the exception, of course, is Altina with Twin Blades, and of course Deadeye. That is his counter, and we'll definitely touch on that, of course. Now, if that wasn't enough, he grants himself Fallen Star, which now gives him an 80% reduction on the first combat first attack of the enemy phase. So if you let him player phase you, you will suffer, because the damage reduction is insane. He gets it on that hit that he initiates, and then he has like a shield effect where he's like, okay, I'm reducing damage by 80%, which is insane. Now, if that wasn't already enough, because like that's pretty good, he gets to inflict gravity on the unit that he attacks, and on top of that, anyone adjacent. That is really oppressive on something like Arena if you don't have a flyer to basically provide guidance. So pretty stacked. He's good. Okay, he's good, but we'll talk further on why that's so impactful when comparing him to the other legendaries, of course. Yeah. So let's move on. Claude's stats, I will speculate, are going to be pretty similar to his Brave form. Okay, this is just speculation. This is not confirmation, but if you can just kind of relate it to Legendary Dimitri, Legendary Claude, and their Brave versions, it's like give or take a couple stats here and there in something. So you can expect someone like Claude to have a really crazy good attack and speed stat spread, but a fairly low defense and res stat. Which means to overcome the oppressiveness of Claude attacking into you, you pretty much need to, if you're going to enemy phase, you absolutely need to outspeed him, which I feel is very unlikely. You can't use fighter skills with auto doubles or anyone with auto doubles in general because of his null follow-up weapon. And of course, the last specific counter is Deadeye and Altina. So if you have a Winter Altina at +10 for Arena, or you have an Archer like George for Deadeye, you are in a good spot. Alm, of course, we'll talk about Alm. But this guy is good, and he will definitely impact the arena meta. If you don't have an Earth Legendary already like mid-merged or working on one, this is a solid candidate for probably one of the best Earth Legendaries in the moment. And I'm not surprised, he's very impactful, and he will stay impactful for a while. Okay, but with that being said though, let's actually talk further on this, which is the banner he comes on. So the banner he comes on is, I thought it was going to be a green legendary, but he is colorless in this aspect. So this made colorless really appealing for quite a few people, I'd say. Mila gives you light season merges. We don't have a new light mythic yet, but if you were working on Mila, she's definitely some of the strongest light mythics that you can use. For now, I definitely, if you haven't seen the mythic video on, you should go check that for sure. Leaf is still very powerful in water season. His Gale Force effect is extremely unique, and I don't see other characters really gonna be able to replicate that. And finally, Claude himself to round out Earth. So Earth, Water, Work, and of course Mila. Green isn't super bad here either, although I feel like Annette probably drags down the potential of Triandra and Hell. Annette is potentially a very good defense unit because of her additional movement effect. She, at the very worst, is like Rally plus Ruse fodder, which is also pretty solid. But Triandra in green is good here. And Hell, at least for the, bonus mythic. And she's pretty solid at potentially checkmating your enemies. I don't really have much to say for blue and red here because there's definitely some duds in there, especially like red. You have Hrid, who we don't really know how he's going to improve. You got Legendary Celev, who's we're going to talk about that one, and Altina. So Altina isn't sharing with the best stuff there. If you're working on those as merge projects, it'll appeal to you. And finally, blue is Naga, Tiki again, and Milady. So if you're like, you basically have to be merging those characters to get value out of that. And Tiki is another one that's oof, man. When you get the release of a character like Claude, Earth, and Tiki and Celev, we gotta talk. Okay? So we will. And here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna look at Claude. We're gonna keep his skills there, and we're gonna actually look at the matchups and the ranking of how I feel about Claude. So this is how I would kind of rank the current situation of Earth Season, okay? This is among each other and how useful they are as combat units. This does not take into account scoring, because when it comes to scoring, like obviously Tiki's not bottom of the barrel, but when we're talking strictly combat and like synergy with your team, this is how I would officially rank them. Claude and Alm, for example, are interchangeably good. I think it kind of depends on what sort of partners you have and what you're playing against for who has better matchups and worse matchups, for sure. But this kind of puts Alm in a very like one-on-one scenario. I think Alm, as long as you're running a Deadeye, should be able to decisively take out Claude and or at least player phase him to kill him, because enemy phasing without Deadeye is not going to happen unless you can outspeed him. That's also possible, but the gravity effect, if you don't kill him, could really, really hamper you in some sort of stalemate, let's say. So I think Alm is best suited up to take out Claude, but The other ones have definitely fallen off a lot, and this is because of the null follow-up effect on Claude, okay? That null follow-up on his weapon is insane because it makes units like Seliph, it makes units like Tiki completely oof, man. Like, it completely oof. So Tiki essentially needs to somehow one-shot an enemy phase, which is impossible because she cannot auto-double. You have to have her outspeed Claude, and hopefully with that second hit should kill him. I'm pretty sure she would, but getting her to that high speed will likely be... well, it likely won't happen. Seliph relied on his enemy phase, but also that sort of auto-double desperation effect. That officially gets turned off because of Claude's weapon, making him extremely low value now. So the other characters like Julia would need to player phase into Claude to kill him, but not enemy phase. And I'm putting Grima here as speculatively in the middle because I feel like with a buff to her A skill, which is likely due, she could see far more relevance. One little huge issue I saw now with Ike's buff is because he, even if he has Ether ready, which is what the new effect was on Radiant Ether 2, it won't matter against Claude, and he's a distant counter enemy phase unit. So both Tiki and Ike is a big oof if you were one of those users. Or Seliph user. I'm not a Seliph user, but I've used Seliph and I respect his power. It's just he's like in the season that just sucks to be in, man. It sucks to be a Seliph user. It sucks to be a Tiki user. I'm sure you could probably make use of Ike, but you know, if you're an Alm Julia user, you're probably okay. Grima might be due for some pretty solid buffs, and she has that like IO shield effect. Now, one thing I want to mention with Claude, and probably the saving grace, is that Claude should theoretically not be running IO shield. And the reason for that is to make him a max scoring unit, he needs to carry 300 SP in his A, his preference skill, and 300 SP skills in his C. Now, you can't use IO shield in the seal without lowering the team's score. So I don't feel like you will run into that too much, and this will kind of demand an archer out of your Earth season to properly take on Claude. You will not be able to bullfight or auto double player phase him. You're gonna need some kind of like brave weapon. You're gonna need like a Deadeye effect, and a Winter Ultina at +10, obviously not the case. So Claude is gonna be really good. And I don't usually like, you know, I'm usually pretty conservative when it comes to the potential of units, but this is a pretty scary thing to deal with if you're not ready for it. And honestly, just do your arena run is like a pretty solid piece of advice right now, okay guys? So if you didn't kind of like get what I was saying up until now, I've kind of made a little like matchup chart down here, and this is like how Claude versus that particular matchup should go if, you know, properly prepared. So I feel like you can kind of see Claude should pretty much beat all the Earth Legendaries except maybe not Alm and maybe not Grima. And the reason Grima is there is because Grima can get stats speed stacked enough compared to all the other ones to potentially fight back against Claude. So, and this highly depends on her A skill buff, and of course she'll need a lot more support than everyone else here because she's just a bit faster, and that really helps a lot. So I put a little question mark there because there's potential there, but you know, Alm will likely be his most difficult matchup, and Alm users should be basically prancing around now because you are one of the few users of Earth Season who won't have to struggle too much. The other ones, like Julia, for example, will probably be able to one-shot him on your player phase. So, but as a Claude user, you should be pretty comfy. And I'd say that's about it, folks, on how I feel about Claude and Earth Season now. How he compares to the other seasons, he's gonna have a pretty good time, I think. Maybe not against Legendary Crom, but, you know, to be honest, unless the Legendary Crom has Deadeye, you can probably kill him too, because he's not gonna be doubling Claude. I don't see it. So this is a pretty good Earth Legendary, I'd say. Pretty good. Okay, guys? That's it from me. Please let me know in the comments below what you feel about this. Just to let you guys know, I actually rank Claude above Dimitri and Edelgard for my own personal preference as a character. He's the only one I was able to play enough of the story to kind of get a grasp on his growth as a character. I haven't finished all 3 house routes, so I can't give a full perspective on Dimitri and Edelgard yet. I'm sure they're pretty awesome too in their own ways, and that may change. But for now, Claude is a cool boy, and he will probably smash quite a few people in Earth Season if you use him or get beaten by him, and I'm sure that'll happen quite a bit. So with that being said, guys, thank you for watching. Give the video a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Claude and Earth Season in general. And if you haven't subscribed, do that already, please. It does help. I'll see you guys in the next video. Much love. Peace.